Jacinta Nampijinpa Price, one of our favourite people in the Australian Parliament, and we know you love hearing from her. We get the honour of being able to talk to her every couple of weeks. Well, of course, she is always keeping an eye on what's happening in the world, but there's an awful lot happening inside the future of the governing party of the centre right of this country. She joins us now. Jacinta, lovely to see you. How's the week? And obviously some big changes that have been happening. Andrew Hastie now joins you on what is now a very talented backbench at the moment. What does it say to you about the decision that Mr Hastie made?
Oh, look, I have a lot of respect for Andrew. I think that he has certainly shown he's a man of principle and of conviction, and obviously the issue of immigration is one of great concern to him. And he obviously thought that within his role in Home Affairs that he would play a key role in developing policy in that space. And given that, it was brought to his attention that wouldn't be the case, he decided to step down. And so, I have a lot of respect for him in the decision that he's made there. I feel certainly as a backbencher now that I suppose we can both talk about the issues that are of great concern to Australians. We've had our ear close to the ground. We've been having those conversations. Everywhere I go, I got off the aeroplane today, landing here in Canberra, and I'm getting people talking to me that sitting across the aisle from me, explaining to me their concerns about mass migration and the fact that it's not matching up to what we have on the ground in terms of housing availability, the pressure that's been put on our services, on our schools, on our infrastructure, on our hospitals. So I'm looking forward to working closely, obviously, with Andrew on those issues that are really important to the Australian people.
Yeah, I also, you may well have heard me talk about it. My issue is that, of course, I'm completely with you and with everyone who's having problems with. Literally, there was, 800 people trying to go for one unit in Bondi, right? There is in places, and even, places like Ipswich, there's 150 people trying to go for one unit. Rental. But then there's this element where the Labor Party tries to say that any conversation at all about this automatically off into racial complexity, right? Automatically off into a place where they're sort of trying to make it a third rail issue, firstly because they don't want to engage with it, but where do we work out the line? And I know that wondering out loud will probably produce news headlines here, and I don't mean to do that to you. But how do we work this out? Because we want to have that honest discussion, but we also don't want to piss off millions of people who might have turned up, or parents turned up, in the past 20 years.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of, Liberals as well have been dragged into the identity politics issues and trying to appease every sectional interest. But we need to lift the debate. We need to lift it and make it about what actually unites us, which is family, community and nation, of course. Now, we know that Labor want to label us as racist or whatever to write us off at any turn because they don't want to have the debate and the conversation. But they've brought in 1.2 million people in their last term of Parliament, and the housing supply hasn't kept up. That's just a fact. Economists and peak bodies across the board, they're saying that we can't hit the National Housing Accord targets of 1.2 million by 2029. So that's another key concern that we should be talking about. So we need to look at the policy settings and get them right so that we're actually having sustainable migration matched to housing ultimately, and that should be the standard. And these are the conversations that we need to have. And so those on our side need to understand we've got to act like an opposition. We've got to hold this government to account, and we've got to deal with it with the facts as well in order to get this message across to the Australian people. The same goes with the energy debate around nuclear as well. We need to be able to have reliable 24-hour baseload power, and nuclear energy is what all leading nations around the world are using, except for us, which is ridiculous. And on the same hand, this race toward net zero is killing us, killing our economy, and driving cost of living up. But these are all legitimate debates that we've got to be having, and we've got to find our policy positions sooner rather than later. I don't think we should be spending months to land what seems to be really obvious calls to me.
Yeah, I mean, things that are fundamental, right? And that they don't take that long to work out. Again, I'm like many who, post-election, you take a little breather, right? We're probably getting towards the end of that process now, if not overdue to lock some of those things down. Now, I want to talk to you about how you feel about these protests that are going to be taking place. So October the 12th, we know, of course, tomorrow, October the 7th, the anniversary of, I don't know, appropriate language, but a couple of years on, of course, from the horrible attacks that killed 1,200 people in the south of Israel. In the name of the Palestinian communities, apparently we're going to have yet again the protests, but this one not on the Harbour Bridge, instead this one at the Sydney Opera House. Well, I didn't like the way those things were organised on the Harbour Bridge. I don't like the way it's being organised for the Opera House because, of course, the Opera House forecourt was the very place where, on October the 8th, there was that despicable display of people who were not there to do anything other than celebrate what Hamas had done.
Mm. Yeah, look, absolutely right. I mean, it was a disgusting display. Australians have the right to protest, but what they don't have is the right to glorify terrorism or to intimidate a minority community and instill fear or rile up hatred in our country, especially on the anniversary of course, what was the worst day of violence toward Jewish people since the Holocaust. I mean, it is disgusting to think that this is what they are gearing up for once more. But this is the lack of leadership that we have seen from certainly our Prime Minister, where this kind of behaviour has been allowed to happen. So, in terms of these protests, I think the New South Wales Police and the authorities need to ensure that the law is being enforced. They should be denying any events that, incite hatred or violence, and there should be certainly strict conditions in place. I think that if any of the organisers are registered charities, then the ACNC must ensure compliance. If the activists again want to fuel hatred, then their charity status should be reviewed. I mean, we should be taking a harder line against this kind of behaviour because. And once more, I receive correspondence from members of the Jewish community quite regularly, long-standing Australian citizens who are telling me that they're considering leaving Australia, that they don't see that Australia is a safe place to live anymore. So, this using the Sydney Opera House, the icon that it is, as a backdrop to this horrific protesting behaviour that's inciting hatred should absolutely not be allowed to go ahead, as far as I'm concerned. And, I suppose we need to see more from leadership right across the country. It needs to be a bipartisan approach to make sure that our Jewish community can feel safe in Australia, and that we're tougher enforcing against hate speech, against what we're seeing, this increase in behaviour that's about supporting terrorist behaviour, terrorism and hatred.
100%. Totally with you. Jacinta, so good to see you. So good to have the chance to have a chat. I look forward to doing it again in the next couple of weeks.